Hey guys, what's up? JK with PornReboot here. Today we're going to be talking about the different ways that porn addicts protect themselves from shame. The reason why I'm talking about this is because shame is one of the most powerful emotions that holds porn addicts back. It's one of those things that's so powerful and so painful that a porn addict will do whatever it takes to hide it from themselves and to hide it from others. Not only to hide it from themselves, but also to deny it from themselves. Many porn addicts will deny the fact that they experience shame. And this is especially true with male porn addicts because we just have a tendency to have a bigger ego, but also for a lot of us, our culture and the way we were raised in our families and society doesn't really allow us to put ourselves out there and be vulnerable and experience shame. So my hope is that sharing with you the different ways that porn addicts protect themselves against shame will be the beginning of your journey to opening up and accepting the fact that you experience shame, which is really the first step in overcoming it. The first way that a lot of porn addicts protect themselves from shame is through looking down on others or expressing what's called contempt. And what that means is a lot of porn addicts, in order to hide their shame and push it back, will often act like they're better than others. It's easy to see this online where people will comment on videos, not just mine, but maybe other people's, or material that's trying to help other people come out of their addiction. And you'll see people putting them down and going like, oh, well, the problem with you is that you just don't have strong enough willpower. This also extends to other areas of their life. When you express contempt for some of the things that other people are trying to do to improve themselves, especially when it comes to the addiction, chances are you do it in other areas of your life. So you're doing it in terms of, let's say, class, socioeconomic status, race or ethnicity, so many ways that you express your contempt. And all you're trying to do is hide the fact that there's a part of your behavior that you have no control over. And the only reason why you're doing this is to make up for those feelings of low self-image and low self-worth. It doesn't matter what you've accomplished in life. If there's a part of your behavior, your basic biological behavior that you cannot control the fact that you need to masturbate every day or every other day, or that you watch hours and hours of pornography, you're not going to feel good about yourself. You're not going to have the best self-image. And one of the ways that you deal with it, very unhealthy way, is I'm just going to put others down. If I can make others look lower than me, then I bolster my self-image. Not healthy at all. So if you are guilty of that, it's time to become a little bit more aware and start taking the steps to change. Perfectionism is another way that a lot of addicts try to protect themselves from shame. And you can see this not just in the way that people live their lives. I'll give you an example. There are some people who they pick one thing that they are, decently good at, and then they strive for perfectionism there. Because if they can be perfect in this area, if other people can say they are perfect, and if they believe that they are perfect, then they've improved their self-image. They're like, I'm so good at this one thing or in these areas of my life. I really, really hope that it overcomes and it covers up this part of me that is not perfect. This part of me that keeps giving in. This part of me that I'm ashamed of. This part of me that's dirty. And that is the hope. You see this a lot with people who take very, very strong moral stances. A few weeks ago there was a video that I shot about dogma. Now the reality is, it doesn't matter what my moral stance is as long as it's not something extreme, and it doesn't matter what my religious beliefs are. All that matters is that I'm helping men to come out of the addiction. That's the only thing this channel is about. However, one of the things that a lot of men did, and it's very easy to identify the men who have a lot of shame, is they are looking for perfectionism. And when they feel that their perfectionism is being attacked, immediately there's a reaction from their ego. So they go like, oh no, like I am a perfectly moral, blah, 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 religious person of whatever religion. You know, I follow these commandments. I follow these rules. This is what makes me perfect. I am better than you because I have a religion, because I have a belief, because I have a deity protecting me or assuring me of something after this life. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with having those beliefs. The problem is when you feel that you are better than others and you try to do it in disingenuous, compassionate way, which is just like, oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pray for you. We are going to pray for you so that you may be saved from whatever situation. No, you don't act like you are better than somebody. Because when you are doing that and you are on a channel like this, it means that you are not perfect. I am not perfect. You are here seeking help. And it's okay to go like, you know what, yeah, you know, JK is imperfect, but I'm imperfect too. But when you're like, you know what, you know, I have these moral stances, and if anybody does not adhere to them as perfectly as I do, then they have a problem. It is a sign that you are protecting yourself from your own shame. It's okay to fall. It is okay to fail in some things. It's okay not to be perfect. And it's okay, it's absolutely all right that you struggle with this out of control behavior. You're here to fix it, and I can help you do that. But stop hiding behind perfectionism. Stop hiding behind codes that others have created that make you feel as if you're better than anybody else. Another way that porn addicts protect themselves from shame is by blaming others. This is very common in men who are in relationships. Oh, if you were a better lover, then, you know, I wouldn't have to view pornography. If you were sexier, if you went to the gym, if you looked this way, if you looked that way, then I wouldn't have to do this. If you gave me more affection and more intimacy, then I wouldn't have to, you know, act out or do any of these things. You know, if my job wasn't so stressful, if this didn't happen to me when I was younger, then I wouldn't be in this situation. Oh, if the porn companies didn't exist, if women didn't dress so scantily and just walk around as if they're wearing nothing in the summer, then I wouldn't have to deal with this issue. Again, you're avoiding the main issue, which is your shame and your feeling of unworthiness. Another way that porn addicts protect themselves from shame, and this is a very, very common one, is through isolation. Now, do you ever feel like when you're around other people, your shame comes up? Like your shame of being a porn addict? This is very common when you are deep in your addiction, and sometimes when you're a very high level in your addiction, like level 5 and level 6, because you're engaging in behavior that you feel that other people don't engage in. So when you're around a group of people, suddenly your poor self-image and your feelings of unworthiness start bubbling to the surface. And you don't know how to deal with this. You don't have the coping skills to deal with this. You get very, very uncomfortable. So the easiest way for you to deal with this is to isolate yourself so you don't have to feel responsible for those emotions which come up. Another very common way that porn addicts protect themselves from shame is through anger. And what I mean by this is, let's say for instance, somebody finds out that you're viewing pornography or suspects it, and they call you out on it. Yeah, I saw this on your browser. Or your wife calls you out on it, or a friend even jokes about the fact that you may be into a certain genre of pornography. Immediately triggers the shame and you lash out with anger. You lash out with anger at your partner, your wife, your friend, whoever brought it up in whatever way, because this is your way of transferring the shame to that other person. If the other person gets ashamed or shamed because you got at them in a very angry way, if you lashed out with rage, then that makes you feel better because you're like, hey, I put my shame on you. Don't you dare bring up that shame in me. It's really fascinating the way that we work as human beings when we are trying to avoid absolutely normal emotions, which if we just faced to them and had the right skills to deal with them, we would no longer have them in our lives. You know, we would deal with them. That's the way to deal with these emotions. And the final way that porn addicts protect themselves from shame is by trying to gain power and trying to gain authority. This is a situation where someone is so entrenched in their addiction, and maybe they have a lot to lose, but they just feel that, you know what, I can't control this. I experience a lot of shame, but I don't believe that I can ever end this addiction. So you start climbing the ladder in your career. You start trying to gain power, authority, and positions where you are high enough that you cannot be scrutinized. Unfortunately, the problem is that the higher up you go, the fewer people there are who are going to be able to call you out, and the more difficult it is for you to seek out help. So one of the things that starts happening is your porn use, your sexual behavior starts escalating. And that is why you look in the news and you see all these men who are being arrested, men who are making it to the news in a notorious way because of their out of control sexual behavior, because they violated others' boundaries, because they exploited others. And the reason why it got to that level, many times this started with just a simple sexually compulsive disorder. It wasn't anything complex, but they gained power to avoid being called out on it. They gained power in order to hide the shame, because I can't experience shame when I'm up here. You find it in many, many leaders who struggle with sexually compulsive behaviors. But it puts you at risk of exploiting that position of power. And you don't want to be there, because the consequences, of course, the higher you climb on the ladder, well, the longer the fall and the more painful it is. It might completely destroy you. So this is something to be aware of, especially those of you who are in positions of power and authority. And I don't mean that you're somebody famous or in a position where you would make the news. It could be power in anything, a local level, on a society level, in just your job. You may have power and you may be abusing it simply because you've used it to, shield yourself from shame. All right. So I hope you guys found this helpful. This is something very, very common. It's one of the most challenging things to do, which is kind of breaking through all these different shields that men put in front of them. So the truth is that I do my best when I speak to men, especially when I'm coaching with my group, to kind of penetrate that. But the reality is most of the men who are in the group have already accepted that. My hope is that for you to move forward, this video and identifying these different things that you use to protect yourself will really help you in facing your shame, shining a light on it. As I've said before, that is the best way to get rid of shame, is to just put it out there. So whenever you're ready to take it to the next level, you're like, JK, I've seen my shame, I've experienced my shame, and it's very, very painful. What can I do? Then you may want to join one of our communities, which are very supportive communities for men who are struggling with out of control sexual behavior. The first way is to join our free Facebook group. There's a link to it in the description below. You can share your story there. You can join anonymously. You can speak to other men, and you can get accountability partners. You can see how other men are taking the courageous step to step out from whatever they're using to protect themselves and just share openly in a private group. Now, if you want even more privacy, if you want access to me, to be able to speak to me and speak to other men and get daily accountability, then you might want to consider joining the PornReboot Intensive. Now, we have very, very strict criteria for being a member. You will have to get on the phone with myself or with one of my team members, but there's a link to apply in the description below, and there are a few caveats, all right? You have to be over 25, and you have to be absolutely committed to your recovery. Getting on the phone with my team members or with me is not to get tips or tricks for your recovery. We provide a lot of free courses. We provide a lot of free videos. There's the podcast. So much material is out there with all the tips. Any question that you would ask me, I guarantee you it's probably been answered in some of my material that's out there. Or you can just go to the search bar of my YouTube channel and just search for what you're looking for. A video is going to pop up where I addressed it and maybe explained more in the comment section, all right? So be sure that you are ready to end your behavior once and for all if you're reaching out. Now, if you found this video helpful, please subscribe, support the channel, click on the bell icon that pops up when you subscribe so that you get notified when I release these videos every week. And also, please go ahead and comment and share this video. If you're like, you know what, I know somebody who's struggling with this problem, this video is for them, go ahead and share it. It might change their life. I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll speak to you later in the week.